Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. This is Qesheth again with the eighth in a series of discussions entitled Tarot, the Major Arcana, and the Paths of Return. In the previous 7 discussions, we have discussed the paths of the personality, the lower paths on the tree of life. In this discussion, we will be talking about the path of Samik that rises from Yesod to Temperance, one of the 3 paths leading out of the personality into HGA consciousness. This is Tarot Atu 14, Path 25. In the Sefer Yetzirah, it says the 25th path is the intelligence of probation, or is tentative, and is so called because it is the primary temptation by which the Creator trieth all righteous persons. Tentative means not guaranteed. The heart of the aspirant determines the outcome. He is on probation, so to speak. And let me stop here and say 93 to everyone. I'm glad you're still following these classes. Hopefully they're helping you out. And we will continue to discuss the attributions of this path. This path connects Yesod, the moon, the personal unconscious, with Tippereth, the sun, HGA, or solar consciousness. Conjunction of sun and moon refers to the fact that this is a path that connects the microprosopis with its foundation. The path title is the intelligence of trial or probation. The tarot title is the daughters of the reconcilers, the bringer forth of life. This is one of the zodiacal paths. We talked about that earlier. There's 12 zodiacal paths, 4 elemental paths, and 7 planetary paths. This particular card is ruled by Sagittarius, who is the archer. The ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter. It is a mutable fall sign, meaning it falls at the end of a season. Mutable signs fall at the end of the season and herald change. People born under mutable signs are normally pretty adaptable. In the old Aeon, this card was called Temperance. In the new Aeon, it is called Art. The reason it's called Art because this is nature's course directed by the will of man. The symbol for Sagittarius is a centaur, half man, half beast, showing the rulership of the conscious reason over the animal instinct, redirecting the animal to spiritual aspirations. He is an archer. He shoots his arrow from the bow Qesheth for Tippereth. And we talked about that earlier. These 3 lower paths spell Qesheth, Qesheth, which means bow or rainbow. So he's shooting his arrow from the bow to the target of Tippereth. The Hebrew letter for this path is Samik, meaning prop or support. It's also attributed to the spine, the Sushumna channel. We talked about that. If you back into the tree of life, this is kind of a model of you, your spiritual body. This middle pillar represents the Sushumna chakra, the spine, from which the Kundalini energy will rise to meet its lover, the Anya chakra in the forehead. Another meaning for this letter, Samik, is also anger, referring to the divine rage or the madness of the spiritual aspirant in their pursuit of the Holy Grail. The numerical value for this particular letter is 60. In alchemy, this is the process of coagulation. The processes that were begun on the paths of the personality here, which relate alchemically to separatio, where the aspirant separated and examined the various components of their personality, and now these separate components are reconstituted, brought together, congealed, after being purified by the fires of calcination, which means conscious examination. and brought into harmony and equilibrium to serve the higher aspirations. On the tree of life, on the paths of involution, which is when how things are coming into being, okay? That's the path of involution, and the return is considered the path of evolution. This process is begun on the path of the lovers, here, where we see the alchemical process of Salva. The Lover's card is ruled by Gemini on the opposite side of the zodiacal wheel, showing the process of Salva, separation. Also in Crowley's Lover's card, you see the angel Eros. I don't know if you can see this card. Right at the top, there's an angel shooting the arrow of inspiration downward, meeting the aspirant's arrow of aspiration. You see the white queen and the black king. In Crowley's card, these have now become a homogeneous whole. Crowley has this to say about this card in the Book of Thoth. This is the complement and the fulfillment of Atu 6, Gemini, and it pertains to Sagittarius, the opposite to Gemini in the zodiac, and therefore after another manner one with it. Sagittarius means the archer, and the card is, in its simplest and most primitive form, a picture of Diana the huntress. Diana is primarily one of the lunar goddesses. Okay? So you can see this in the shape of the bow on Crowley's cards and also the crescents here. On Crowley's cards, we see the words Visita Interioria Terre Rectificanda Invis Occultum Lapidum, meaning visit the interior parts of the earth. By rectification thou shalt find the hidden stone. The interior parts of the earth is your unconscious, hidden deep in the refuse of your nephesh, your animal self. You are mining the stone. An example of this in masonry would be the mason taking the unhewn ashlar and making and creating the perfect ashlar. Again, we talked about the crescents represent the moon goddess Diana, the huntress who hunts with a bow, her prey being the sun. Union with her lover. On the cauldron, you see, it's very hard to see in this card, you see the skull and raven associated with the alchemical process of Negretto, the dark night of the soul. For this is a path where the aspirant is further tried and to be found worthy of the Garden of Eden, so to speak, the path of probation and trials, where the aspirant must tread, keeping in mind that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. The red lion Leo is now white, and the white eagle of Scorpio is now red, showing the blending of energies of fire and water, consciousness and unconsciousness. Interestingly, Scorpio is ruled by Mars, showing the redirecting of the sexual energies from death to life, for sex is both life and death. For now, the uniting of the forces of fire and water create the friction needed to further stoke the fires of aspiration. So, and I always think about this as like an atomic blast, as these two opposite polarities come together and cause an atomic fusion within the aspirant. It's very hard for me to explain these things. Explaining spiritual experience into modern words is very hard, so I'm doing the best I can. Okay, and an example is seen in the rune. I'm also a student of the Teutonic mysteries, the rune Nathis, the need fire, showing that the friction of these two opposites, of the uniting of these two opposites, Netzach's fire with Hode's water, age in this process. So when you get, what do you get? Fire and water, steam, spirit rising from that great marriage. The great marriage taking place within the individual, where the Yod force fire and the water He give birth to the son Va. So you got the Yod force fire and the water He giving birth to the son Va, who now marries the daughter, Malkuth's final. They began the ascent to place her back on the throne of her mother, for she is the fallen Shekinah, the soul, the anima mundi, separated from her lover, now seeking to be reunited with the All-Father. And we talked about the formula, the Tetragrammaton, Yod, He, Vav, He. It's a formula of both involution and evolution. The green of Venus, here she's green, represents the love that goes into this work, for the energy of Venus can be likened to the carbon atom that has 4 electrons in its valence shell and needs 8 to be stable. So it is always looking to bond with other atoms. In this case, the soul seeking union with the spirit is an example of the Venetian influence on this path, the process of coagulation. For Venus, Daleth is the door that is hidden within the universal unconscious of the aspirant, that they begin to open and begin to work with on the path of 28, the star card. And for further reading on this process, please read Crowley's Wake World. The white represents the milk of magnesia, the purified water of the personal unconscious, blended with the waters of the universal consciousness, causing a whitening. It also refers to the female sexual fluid. Also, after the processes of calcination, there is only a white powder that is left. It is the Akashic fluid, the electromagnetic waters that flow from the high priestess, activated by the Mars force of the emperor, this male spermatozoon. So you see that this whole process is giving birth to a new creation. The bees on her dress represent the work that went into the making of the golden reward of the great work, Temperance. Knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. The honey. Red drops fall from the lion's paws, the red tincture. The male seed, fertilizing and activating the droplets that fall from the eagle. The female fluid, the milk of magnesia that I discussed earlier. Fertilizing the cosmic egg and creating a new being. We see the blue of Jupiter, the organizing force in this working, which also relates to Qesheth and the wheel of fortune. Watery Qesheth, Hesed, organizes, and it organizes the patterns coming out of Binah. And in the card, the Wheel of Fortune, it shows the cycles of Hesed's creation given motion by Hakma, the Yod force. The Yod force of Hakma is will, for Yod is also the hand, and it is the hand that shoots the arrow of aspiration towards the goal of Temperance. The cups are attributed to Bina, the Sephir of initiation, so in the Saturnarian influence of this process, also the divine dew that is produced from the awakened pineal gland, poured into the being of the aspirant, the creation of the Holy Grail, the rebirth of the aspirant. They say when your pineal gland becomes activated and it becomes solid, a solid stone is formed there that pours forth a sweet fluid called amrita. In the Indian philosophies, they actually cut, and some of the yogis in the Indian philosophies cut the skin of the bottom of the tongue that they may roll the tongue all the way back to drink this precious amrita. Let's take a real quick look at Wade's card. His card is called Temperance, meaning abstinence and self-discipline, because it takes a lot of discipline to have arrived at this point in your spiritual journey. Crowley says that self-control and self-sacrifice govern the wheel of fortune, the wheel of samsara, which the candidate now directs rather than being a helpless victim. The cups have the same meaning as in Crowley's card. The angel, the HGA, directs the process. He has one foot on the earth and the other in the waters, as in the star card, meaning that the personal unconscious of the aspirant is now being informed by the universal unconsciousness. The aspirant is directing the content of the unconscious into material manifestation. On his breast is the red fire triangle, in a square. The square represents the material world, fire contained in matter. The flowers are irises, referencing again Venus's influence on this path. The solar disk on the forehead here shows the solar action in this process, the conscious directing of this operation. The path leads to Temperance. Here's a little path here behind the angel there. The golden crown here refers to the formula that the Father is the Son and the Son is the Father, for the crown is Kether. Something else I'd like to point out is the use of the Mars force on all these earlier paths. This force, the Yod force, Hakma, the force of will, redirected towards spiritual attainment rather than being drowned in the natural impulses of Netzach, nature. Remember that this energy can both destroy or redeem, as pointed out in earlier discussions. Okay, we'll go over a few of the attributions. And these attributions are again from Crowley 777. The color for this path in the king scale is blue. The plants is rush. Animals, the centaur, the horse, and the dog, interestingly enough, because the dog is also attributed to the moon. The stones are hyacinths. I have a hard time pronouncing that. Perfume, lean aloes. The magical weapon is the arrow. In alchemy, we talked about that as coagulation. The magical power, or the siddhi in the Indian system, is transmutations. The transmutations. Think about that. The transmutation of one thing to the other. In the body, it rules the hips, the thighs, and the backbone. If you're thelemic, the holy book would be Liber 7, chapter 3. The spiritual experience for this path is the peacock's tail, the phenomenon of many-colored lights. And we talked about that earlier when we were talking about the path of Pei. One of the experiences the aspirant will have when coming through this veil is, and it's a universal experience, that's how you know you have attained to this, it is these lights, these many-colored lights that the aspirants say resemble a peacock's tail. One of the studies you might want to study if you're thelemic is Liber 418, the fifth aether. Some of the god forms of this path are Diana, Artemis, Nephthys, Janus, Vishnu, and Apollo. Some of the recommended reading, I would recommend Crowley's Wake World, Israel Regardie's The Philosopher's Stone, The Middle Pillar by Israel Regardie, The Kabbalistic Tarot by Robert Wang, The Book of Thoth by Crowley, and Raja Yoga by Vivekananda, as well as Liber 4, Part 1, Mysticism, and Wisdom of the Tarot by Paul Foster Case. I hope this class today helped you, this discussion helped you to have a better understanding of this card and the path that is attributed to, as well as the astrological symbol. If you like this discussion, please like this class and hit like. If there's anything you would like to learn or anything that you'd like me to discuss, please let me know in the comments. In the future, after I finish the paths, the 22 cards of the Major Arcana, I will do a discussion on the small cards, followed by other classes as I am requested to do so. I've been a student of the esoteric mysteries for 30 years. I'm an initiate of 3 orders. I don't know everything. I'm trying to relay spiritual experience into words, which any initiate will tell you is very hard to do. So again, I hope this class helped you. I hope it'll give you a better understanding. And again, I hope to see you again soon. I will finish all 22 cards of the Major Arcana, and then we'll go from there. So anyway, that's all I have for now. 93, everybody.